Welcome and thank you for choosing True Grit, the show about what it really takes to rise, rebuild, and stay the course when life hits hard. I'm Kalish, a coach, storyteller, and believer in the kind of strength that can't fade. Around here, we talk about real people, real stories, and the lessons that shape us, from resilience and mindset to health and healing. Because grit isn't about grinding harder, it's about who you become when you don't quit. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. I am Kalish, and I'm the host of True Grit podcast. And today I have a special guest on here, Jenn Nourse. She is a mental health professional, registered emotional health practitioner, and also recently just recertified with her personal training certification. That was a mouthful. For whatever reason, that couldn't come out. But I'm so excited to have her on here. She just recently had a fantastic article go out in the New York Post and talking about GLP-1s, her own experience with that. I believe that this is such a powerful conversation that we need to be having right now around GLP-1s and some of the things that aren't really coming up very much. But I wanted to turn this over to Jenn and just welcome you onto the show. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, Jenn.
Me too, Kalish. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so happy to be able to share some thoughts and experiences and insights into this wild, wild world of GLP-1 medications and all the things that go along with it.
Yeah, the thing that definitely caught my attention was the fact that we aren't really talking about how this can be a really big trigger for anybody with a past history of eating disorders. And you have that history and how that came about when you did get on GLP-1s for yourself. I would love to give you the floor so you can talk about your experience with that, the background, and again, your experience.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So I had an eating disorder. Had anorexia nervosa as a teenager and didn't I received treatment, but it wasn't adequate for what I needed at the time. So I can't say that I fully ever recovered from an eating disorder. And when I hit midlife with perimenopause and such, I had life changes, put on a significant amount of weight that created some metabolic dysfunction. So I was referred to a obesity medicine program, to a clinic, to help address the metabolic dysfunction, the insulin resistance, and the significant amount of weight that I had put on over 5 years. So when I went into the program, one of the first things we talked about was going on a GLP-1 medication to address the appetite, to address the understand and really identify why I was overeating and why I was craving the sweets and all that sort of thing. So the medication was introduced very early on in my treatment with the obesity medicine program.
Yeah, and from what I understand, it was really early on with the GLP meds really coming online. Basically they were on a learning curve with you. Is that correct?
That is right. That is right. The clinic had just opened. It was a brand new program in where I am in Oakville, Ontario. And the GLP-1s, I guess, well, it'd be 2 years ago now, really just hitting the markets. And even though they'd been around for a while, there was not a lot known about the long-term effects or even the short-term effects of people being on these medications, never mind even thinking about screening people who had disordered eating or eating disorders prior to going on this medication. I don't think that was even something that was done.
So you got to be the lucky guinea pig in that, and maybe in something that they weren't even considering possibly at that time. But yeah, you started to see that some of the telltale signs of that resurfacing for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the key things that when someone goes on a GLP-1 medication and I'm talking more about for weight loss than I am talking for metabolic dysfunctions or for diabetes, is there's a lot of shame. Let's just face it. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of stigma. And when you meet a provider who's a medical doctor, it's very hard to be honest and upfront with them when you first meet them. Right. And I was very hesitant to share that I had an eating disorder in my past, because that's not really something you open a conversation with a medical provider that you don't know very well. So So the GLP-1 medication was definitely something that was talked about early on, but I really didn't even think to share that with her, my doctor at the time, that I had had that issue in the past.
Well, and I would guess that that's something that you probably just wanted to leave in the past and just be able to move forward. You have all these other things coming up for you of getting your health under control, metabolic issues, different things. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
you just want to like just move forward, just like let's fix this and move forward. And I know the GLP-1s, they can be so powerful in so many ways for people, like you said, diabetes, some cardiovascular diseases as well. A lot of really great things. There's one person, I'm not sure if you follow her at all, but her name's Dr. Tina Moore. She talks a lot
Mhm.
about GLP-1s, and she's very much about them, but she isn't about how, I guess, the Wild West, how much Wild West it is out there, and the overprescribing of it. And you got different doses, and there's supposed to be some microdosing, but they're not actually doing true microdosing. There's a lot of things going on, and I just don't think that people really realize how much they don't know, how
Yeah.
how much they're just kind of winging it, it seems, or they're, or I guess the standards are just not the standards aren't high, they're just standards, right? They're just
Hmm.
normal
The
standards.
standards aren't high. And my feeling is that when someone is put on a medication, having had the experience putting on a medication like this, you can't just prescribe the medication and say, come back and see me in 3 months. Let me know how you're doing. I don't see how that with this medication, as opposed to, I don't know, a thyroid medication. This medication needs heavy, regular medical monitoring. And people are now, getting it online, and not, or even getting it from their family doctor. And then the family doctor's not able to see them again for another month. So yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it is being overprescribed and undermanaged.
Yeah, I think, well, and I was pulling up some stats before we got on here about just how likely it is for for women to go on it versus men, also the age ranges that come in, and as you're saying, that there's just not a lot of oversight when it comes to that.
Mhm.
And so just to go over the statistics of it, let me see what. Yeah, it's 15% women and 9% of men are using it, and then
Mm.
22% of the people who are using it are between the ages of 50 and 64. And so,
Okay.
with yourself, what were some of the changes that you were seeing? Like we're talking bone density, we're
Hmm.
talking lean muscle mass too.
Hmm. Hmm. So one of the what well, a couple things that I did notice for myself was definitely the muscle mass. The loss of muscle mass came very quickly, as well as, I mean, my bone density was okay. What are some of the other changes? I mean, the side effects of the medications initially were a bit challenging, in terms of, having acid reflux, having nausea, having, you know, problems moving your bowels. There was a lot of those things that these medications can create some difficulty with. But what I'm seeing over the long term, and what I saw for myself, was definitely the change in my muscular skeletal system. I ended up just kind of hanging everything up. It was hanging because I was a fairly fit person, but that muscle went away like poof, like dust.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know a little bit more about your background, but you'd always been active, and you'd been. Yeah, it sounds like you were really gifted to as far as how much muscle you could put on, which is where you've got some kind of I just I would say negative feedback, but that's not even the correct term. It was just like
No.
an ignorant comment that really just set you off, right?
Yeah, it
Set
was
you
an
down.
ignorant
Yeah.
comment when I was 16 or 17 years old, about, because had quite muscular thighs and I played a lot of sports. So, being told I had thunder thighs when I was 17 years old, when really it was very muscular. One comment can set you down a pathway that isn't healthy. Yeah. So I was a muscular person. To lost a lot of that was quite shocking to see physically and to feel.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Dip in energy and just like that power, being able to feel powerful in your own body.
Yeah. 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 And the delicate balance that's required to get the adequate amount of protein, as you know, to get the adequate amount of protein in, for someone that isn't even on a medication, we struggle as women to hit our protein goals every day. Put yourself on a medication that suppresses your appetite, suppresses your bowels, suppresses your gastric emptying, and gives you nausea at times. Hitting your protein goals is a real challenge. Never mind keeping the muscle on and going to the gym.
Absolutely. Well, and first of all, too, I wish that I'd had the problem of being called. Right now, I would love to have thunder thighs. That's what I'm trying to build up for. But it's like the show. Like I lift heavy and I hit my protein goals, and I had one of my autoimmune diseases when I was a kid affected my
Right.
muscle growth and muscle development. And so now it's like, okay, now that I know that, I'm trying to actively put on that muscle. And so, women don't realize just how much they take their muscle for granted. And then
Mhm.
obviously there's like a stigma too about being a strong woman and just like that perception of like being bulky or whatever, where it really like it helps so much with your metabolic health. It seems like it's counterproductive in that sense, like where it does, I know it
Yeah.
does help with metabolic health as far as certain hormones and correcting things like that. However, it's also affecting the muscle of longevity, our biggest metabolic organ in our bodies, which is our muscle.
Yes. And like I said earlier, in terms of having that care team, so to speak, when put on this medication, or having the education to know that it's almost like I wish there was a requirement for people to have to work out while they're on a GLP-1 medication. Like, this is your prescription for the GLP-1, this is your prescription for the gym. And I know people are more likely to take the medication and not follow the script for the gym, but it's almost like they go hand in hand, and the protein. It's like those three pillars are essential, especially, well, not especially for women and men, but just speaking as a woman, we're already fighting with perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. So I feel like those three things need to all go hand in hand.
Because when I was first starting to work and everything, and then also having my mother and other friends of hers all in the medical field, she was a medical assistant and X-ray tech, and then my first job was back. Well, I was like the office gopher at an orthopedist office.
Hmm.
I was just around it all the time, to include my own history, so in and out of hospitals and stuff with medical shit. But
Yeah.
the thing is, like, I would hear it all the time of, okay, nobody wants to actually do the work. They just want the pills. They want and I know that there's
Yeah.
some truth to it, but I think this is where we get a really good segue into what I'm so interested in, and I really love that you're a professional at this, with all of your background with mental health and being able to provide that kind of support. But I would say that these doctors kind of already have a preconceived notion. No good.
Yeah, the cat fell off the chair. I'm pushing her away and she fell off the
Yeah.
chair. So I'm like, oh, sorry. It's like, don't
Okay,
come. Do not.
I'll put this in a blooper reel later.
I'm like pushing her back, and I pushed her so hard she fell off the chair.
Well, they land on their feet.
They land on their feet. Now so yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Um,
Okay. Uh,
we're
but
all
yeah,
good. That would be a good blooper.
yeah. um, So what I believe though is that these doctors aren't really getting well trained in. I mean, I don't even think they even touch on any kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy, any of those things that could be tools for their clients, or sorry, for their patients. They
Mhm.
themselves have a very fixed mindset of what is even possible for their patients. I mean, I know that my father-in-law is an excellent example of this. He'd always been kind of thin. He was an LA County sheriff, and he'd smoke cigarettes all the time, always had his Cokes, and ate
Mm.
cheeseburgers like every single day. He kept getting a clean bill of health and kept saying, I'm just going to keep doing this until they tell me I can't. Well, I think he hit like
Right.
60, and finally they told him, you can't. And then they wanted to put him on statins. His cholesterol was climbing, and due to his age, all that kind of nonsense. And he goes, no, I'm not going to do any medication. Well, you need it. It's going to be impossible for you to fix it. And he goes, yeah, I think I can fix it. So He quit smoking. He did all of the changes. I mean, he's somebody that will just like do more like food as fuel kind of thing. Like, I don't know, that doesn't work for everybody, but he was able to
Right.
do that. He got into the gym, became a gym rat, went back to the doctor 6 months later, and they were just blown away and telling him, I can't believe that you fixed all this. I mean, he's ripped. I can thank him for my
Wow.
husband now getting into great shape because he couldn't have his 60 something year old father outdo him.
Gosh.
But it really, I think it debunks what a lot of doctors just assume about their patients, and just that the attitude that they go in there.
Hmm.
If they had that support of not just maybe having a dietitian or nutritionist, but somebody like you who also understands that behavioral side of things, the mental side of things, that can help give them the tools to get out of their own way.
Yes, yes. I mean, never mind people that start on a GLP-1 who are having, they're either living with obesity or whatnot. For those people to even get to a gym or to reach out and ask for help, it took enough for them to just get to the doctor and be put on the medications. But then they're left to go, well, now what do I do? I'm on the medication, but I don't know how to eat properly. I don't know what protein consumption I need. I don't know how to work out at the gym. I don't know how to put muscle on or maintain muscle. So you're kind of left unless you're working with a holistic program. And I only know of one here, anyways, but I feel like for the vast majority of people, they get the medication and they're just go figure it out. Come back and see me in 3 months.
It might sound extreme to say, but it
Mhm.
feels almost criminal, you know.
You know, it's funny you say that because I also feel that people, maybe not so much now, but when I was put on a GLP-1 medication, maybe it is now too, there was no screening tools for people with disordered eating or eating disorders. So I feel now, when you say it's almost criminal, sometimes the access to these medications to the people that shouldn't be taking them is criminal. And I think of young people, right? I'm thinking of the younger generation who somehow are able to get this medication because it'll give you the perfect body or it will, make you socially acceptable. I'm hoping the standards are changing, but it is almost criminal, the access to this medication for some people.
Yeah, well, and I wish that the standards were changing, but now we're starting to see that uptick in kind of like, the '90s heroin chic is starting to come back, and I don't know what they're calling it right now, but yeah, the whole being super skinny has come back in, and I think that like people like you and I doing the pushback and being like, no, strong is beautiful. If you are
Hmm.
letting yourself become so thin, you're losing that muscle tone. I mean, I can tell
Hmm.
when somebody is losing weight in an unhealthy way, right? Their
Hmm.
skin starts getting saggy, skin gets crepey, dark circles under the eyes. They don't have any kind of muscle tone, like they're just getting thin. And maybe it looks good for a moment, as that first initial weight loss,
Yeah.
but then everything just starts eating away. You're losing the
Yes.
nutrients. Like you're saying, like you just can't get
Yes.
enough in.
Yes, yes, you can't get enough in, and never mind the muscle loss and the bone density concerns, but you start to feel like garbage too, right?
Mm.
Because you're not getting the appropriate number of calories and nutrients in to make you feel like you can be active and do the things that you want to do.
Yeah. So I guess to segue a little bit into
Hmm.
people getting off of it now, I pulled up the
Yeah.
stats, and usually within a year, they will have gained back almost, let me see,
Huh?
anywhere from 67 to 82% of that body fat. And they're not even really screening for how much of a muscle loss that was. So if their body fat percentage
Mm,
is up, that's just going off of weight. So that's their body fat percentage now going up. So I wanted
wow.
to ask you a little bit
Hmm.
about, since you ended up coming off of it, there was obviously that road to get back to yourself
Hmm.
mentally and then also physically.
Hmm.
I kind of want to hear about how that was for you, and how you were able to make that transition, because now you're in such a great place. You're out there training, you're throwing tires, you're teaching classes sometimes.
Pulling sleds.
Pulling sleds, pulling your butt muscles.
Pulling butt muscles, pulling sleds, playing soccer, playing basketball. Yeah, I'm in a much different
Hmm.
place than I was a year ago, for sure. I have to say, being on a GLP-1 medication gives you, I'm not going to say a false sense of security. Maybe it does, but for me, it gave me a sense of security that those are my guardrails and I can continue on the path I'm going and not have to worry about putting on weight. The psychological effect of coming off the medication or tapering down the medication, and I don't know if this is for everybody. For me, it was, what's going to happen when I come off this medication? Is my eating going to go out of control? Am I going to put back, like the stats say, am I going to put back on all this weight? um where are the guardrails going to be, because you're taking them away if you come off a medication. Now, from my lens, I can only speak because I have had an eating disorder. The lens that I coming off the GLP, and my doctor actually eloquently really put this to me. She said, even off the medication, the eating disorder itself suppresses your appetite so much and causes you to restrict so much that the power of the disorder will take over from the power of the medication, if that makes sense. Because the
Wow.
eating disorder almost acts like a GLP-1 in suppressing your appetite. So someone that has not had an eating disorder experience may have a different experience coming off a GLP-1 and transitioning back into intuitive eating or normalized eating, or, eating when hungry or not eating past fullness. When you have an eating disorder, those cues are gone anyways. You don't have those hunger cues. So coming off the medication, I thought my appetite would come back like a roaring lion and I would be out of control. But because the eating disorder was still not fully recovered, it was almost like that was my new GLP-1, was the eating
Mm,
disorder.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that was going to be my other question, because yeah, the stats say, and that again, that's another thing that people need to be aware of, is that like you're more the exception to the rule. With having the other thing coming on, I was seeing that like
right.
yeah, the hunger does return aggressively, but yeah, you
Okay.
almost
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, you seem to
Yeah.
be the
Mm.
exception to the rule, because obviously there's something. Well, you'd be better to describe what that is. Like, isn't it like an attachment to that feeling, or what is really going on there?
Yeah, it's well, the part of the thing with eating disorders is that your body learns through the patterns of restriction, to adapt to. You learn how to not listen to your hunger cues. You learn how to ignore them. You learn to suppress them. You learn to say those aren't there. So those were well established when I came off the GLP-1 medication. And one of the things with eating disorders, it's very important when you're in recovery, is to do mechanical eating. So even if you're not hungry, mechanical eating, it's even if you're not hungry at 9 o'clock a.m. or 8:30 in the morning, you're having your breakfast and you're having what you and your dietitian have set out for breakfast. You're having your snacks, you're having your lunches, even if you're not hungry. Like you just mechanically eat 3 times a day and your 2 snacks in between. That's mechanical eating. And eventually your body does recalibrate and re-regulate, and those hunger cues do come back, because mine did come back. It took a
Mm.
long time, but they did come back. They're still subtle, but they've come back. So, and that's kind of, I don't know if people that have been on GLP-1 medications and then come off, and how they relearn to listen to their hunger cues without that medication. That is a curiosity of mine, actually.
Well, yeah, and that also is another important thing of just, as you said, having some sort of guide rails, people in there that are giving you support, um,
Hmm.
being preserving muscle health, and then also making sure that you're getting the nutrients that you need to, figuring out how to work around all of that. But then the other side of it, we're relearning your relationship with food and what is proper nutrition, so that when you do come off of it, that you've already developed that lifestyle around it.
That's
um,
right. That's right. Yeah. It's my doctor actually describes it in her program as appetite literacy.
Ooh, I
Like,
like that.
understand, isn't that good? Appetite literacy. Unless you're part of a program that looks at this and looks at GLP-1 medications and the impact, then nobody teaches you that. There's no literature out there that teaches you about appetite literacy. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, so those people coming off the medications and they're gaining that weight back. or fat, or if, whatever they're gaining back, whether it be muscle, hopefully, but it doesn't sound like it's the case, is they haven't been given the tools.
Right.
They haven't been given the tools. And it's a lot for your body physiologically to go through that weight loss with the medication, then come off it and then regain the weight. Like, that's a lot physiologically happening to your body, right?
Right. Well,
Hmm.
it's something that just popped in my mind as well. So I've had friends that had gastric bypasses in the past, and they talk about how much that is that's affected their relationships too.
Hmm.
Kind of maybe like their husbands start to get a little insecure because they're getting thinner, that kind of thing. Anything like that? Like, did you see any impact on any of your relationships? Regardless of romantic or or friendships or anything like that.
Yeah. I
I know
think
that was
what
kind
I
of a random
noticed.
question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question though. I think what I have noticed and what I have learned for myself is people are very quick to comment on weight loss. They're very quick to say, "You look amazing," or "You look so much better than you did." Ouch. Um, or "What are
Yeah.
you doing? Because you look, what are you doing to lose the weight? Because you look amazing. Tell me what you're doing." I have learned people need to shut up and not comment on people's, do not comment on anybody's weight ever, ever. Comment on the clothes they're wearing. Comment on, the color, like, "Your eyes are really sparkling today," or "I love those jeans." Has it affected any? It didn't affect my relationships, other than a few people had said to me, "I can't lose you to an eating disorder," because I'd lost so much weight. I had a few friends that were worried that, the eating disorder would have fatal consequences, which is,
Mm.
eating disorders are, aside from addiction, one of the number one highest mortality rate of mental health
Okay.
conditions. But yeah, no, it did impact relationships, but it also taught me to, like I said, just shut up and don't comment on people's weight,
I think I
good
think
or
that's
bad.
sage advice.
Right? Just
I,
shut up.
yeah, it's like you got the thunder thighs comment in high
Mm.
school, and I had Skinny Bone Jones, and I was accused of being anorexic because of how my
Oh,
that's what my body was, and now like I'm obsessed with like I'm gonna put on the muscle.
yeah. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Strong is in. Like, strong is, yeah. It's a dangerous world out there with, weight and biases. And the funny thing is that I work in mental health. And some of the comments
Mhm.
that came to me were directly from mental health providers,
Wow.
about weight. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, guys, come on. We all work in the same field. So,
It
yeah,
just goes to
it's
show that you can be a
yeah,
mental health expert and still have very low emotional IQ.
that's right. Yes. Yes. Well, especially if you don't work in the area of eating disorders.
Mm,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, so then what happened where you've got this great career with working with patients and mental health, and there's been like this pivot now of wanting to work a bit more with people on the physical side, being recertified as a personal
Hmm.
trainer, teaching classes and helping people along with that. Where was like that little bit of a shift that occurred for you to start pursuing that?
I before I mean I went to university and studied abnormal psychology. So my first love was mental health, and I did mental health work before I had children, and then went into the fitness world and was a trainer for 10 years, and then pivoted back into mental health. I think for me, is having gone through an experience firsthand, being on a GLP-1 medication, having had an eating disorder, and then reaching the point where I chose recovery and I chose health and fitness. I want to empower women, especially who are on these medications or who are living with enlarger bodies, to understand that their bodies can still be strong, and that they can still, just because they're in a larger body or they don't move as well as they would like to, doesn't mean that it's a death. It's a life sentence, right? We can still work to empower you, help you feel good in your body and feel strong and feel mobile. And I really, really want to reach women and help and hold their hand and help them, especially when they are on these medications, to be able to feel good about working out and understand the importance of working out.
Oh my God. That's some powerful stuff right there.
Yeah, I can't believe I just put that all in a sentence. Yeah. It's like, what just
Oh,
came out of your mouth, Jen? Yeah.
that's why we gotta record ourselves sometimes. I
Yeah.
love that you're getting out there and doing more of these more interviews. I mean, you were just on one right before you talked to me as well, because
I
these
was.
things that need to be said, and that there haven't been historically a lot of women talking about these things. And I love having a platform now, whether I'm providing it or other people are providing it for people like us to be able to go and speak these things and pour into people and really like pull that out of them, just like it's not too late. I get like you're kind of making this little bit of a, I mean, it's pivot basically at, how old was the pivot? No.
I'm 51.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm making a pivot. Yeah. Wow. 51. Yeah.
I know. Well, I'm about ready to turn 42, and I really just restarted my business maybe about a year or so ago, and I've gone through a few different iterations of things. Yeah, I think that a lot of women just seem to give up their power once they hit a certain age and just be like, well, I'm 40, I'm middle aged now, blah blah blah. Let me just all let it go. And then I guess
Yep.
maybe that these GLP-1s look like, oh, what would you call it? Like
Like
blanking on the term,
like I'm
like
trying to
a
get
life
on your
support, life ring, or a lifeline. There we go.
a lifeline or a buoy or whatever. Yeah. Or a
Yeah,
life ring.
but yeah, these GLP-1s start to look like a lifeline for them, but then they're still, I hate to say it, but it's still taking away our power. And again, going back to like where it feels almost criminal, where people's insecurities are being preyed upon essentially.
You just nailed it on the head. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if the proper education and the proper resources aren't put into place, yeah, these people are being set up to, and I say this with a lot of caution, but people are being set up to fail
Mm-hmm.
if everything is not put into place with these medications, like all the other adjuncts that you need with this medication. And the one thing that I've said on another podcast is, like you said, women who hit 40 or, mid 40s and they're in perimenopause or menopause and, their children are growing, and you kind of lose your sense of identity
Mm.
and your sense of strength and your sense of purpose. And then you don't want to talk anymore, right? Like you feel, oh, I should have it all together by now, I shouldn't talk about this, I don't matter. And what I've said on, another podcast is eating disorders aren't just a young person's disease. They also can happen in midlife, and it's okay to talk about it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't matter and you should be ashamed because, oh, it only happens to teenagers, or it only, like we don't have to have it all together in our 40s and 50s.
Yeah, we're all still learning. I think each decade that we go through, there's always some sort of expectation of where we're supposed to be by that point,
Yeah.
but it's not linear.
It's not linear. And I've seen a few TikToks out there where it says, be kind to your mother. This is the first time she's experiencing life too. Right?
Wow, yeah.
Like, this is the first time I've experienced age 51. I've never been here before.
Yeah.
So when my kids are like, oh, mom, you should know this about ChatGPT or something, I'm like, well, this is my first time doing it too.
Yeah, this is the
So
oldest I've ever been.
this is that's right. This is the oldest I've ever been, and this is the first time I'm doing this. And God, we don't have to have it. We don't have to have it all together.
Mm-mm.
And it's okay to put ourselves first.
And if you haven't thought about it yet, it's okay. But I was just wondering if you've given your background, given your experience, and then moving forward, have you thought about putting together some sort of like basically like exit plan or something for other women, like a framework or something that they might be able to follow, or is it more of just like let's get with a trainer, nutritionist,
Hmm.
get some guidance on it. And what have your thoughts been about that?
Well, that kind of ties into what I actually do in terms of a framework for women, because I mean, I do the fitness training and I do the one to one. I do small group training and the one to one, but I also do neural network therapy, which is teaching us how to rewire our brain patterns essentially for new and improved ways of thinking and behaving. And I feel, I've probably chatted with you about this before, but I feel that that fitness, physical fitness, and mental health go hand in hand. You can't have
Mm-hmm.
one. You can have one without the other, but it's not complete. So I think for women to have a framework where they can go in, either being on this medication or not, or coming off this medication, have a framework where they can go in and want to work out because they've worked on their mental blocks and
Mm-hmm.
their mental hang-ups around it, where they want to work out and they want to work on their patterns and behaviors of thinking to improve them, so that they're able to look more optimally at the whole picture. So in terms of a framework, I think that's actually a really good idea. um, it's not something that I've thought specifically about, but I think it's a great idea.
I think you're a really good. You'd be a really good resource for it for sure.
Well, yeah, having firsthand experience definitely makes you, um, on some levels, more relatable. But you have that emotional IQ about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think just continuing to speak about it as often as we can, speak about it, and speak to the importance of not just being handed a prescription and told go away, see you in 3 months. It's This
Yeah.
medication is, like you said, is so powerful and requires a lot of communication and a lot of education and a lot of support while being on it. Yeah, exactly. I think, what I think would be lovely is that if every person that goes on a GLP-1 medication was able to speak with someone that's had lived experience, would be very cool.
That okay. Yeah. I believe that's a great piece of advice. Just having the conversation with somebody who not only has been on it but has also gotten off of it too.
Yes,
So that they can get the
yes.
full picture of it, right?
Yes. Yes. Someone that has been gone off it who also doesn't have a disordered eating past would be, to look at it from different perspectives, right? People that have gone off it with who didn't have disordered eating would be interesting to see how they manage. And also, yeah, to sit down with someone just from the top and say, hey, this was my experience and this is what I experienced early on. Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes me think too. I think just one last thing is that
Hmm.
people get really excited about the prospect of like this big change that's going to happen, and especially too like you kind of hitting the easy button, or at least they think that it's going to be easy button. So I would imagine that if you well, I can pose you the question. If
Hmm.
you knew what you knew now, as in maybe like you heard it from somebody else, obviously not your lived experience, because that can kind of change the perspective of it. But if you had heard from somebody else, hey, these are the things that I went through, would you have still gone through with it or not? Yeah, let me see. How can I phrase this? Would you
Yeah.
have still gone through with it? But if you had, then would you have made the point of going through all these extra steps to help put in some of the different guide rails, like your nutrition, and like being more aware, I guess. So,
I think I don't think I realized the power of the power the medication had when I went on it. And I thought, ah, it's not gonna, I never thought for a second it would trigger a relapse. Never for a second.
mhm.
So knowing what I know now and going back 2 years, I probably wouldn't have. And what I can say in a weird warp sort of way is going back on the medication, or going on the medication, having a relapse with my eating disorder was probably the one of the best things that could have happened to me, because it forced me to face the eating disorder.
Okay.
It forced me to finally deal with it
Oh, wow.
in a rocky road sort of way, because I never dealt with it as a teenager fully. Otherwise,
Hmm.
I wouldn't have had this problem. But going on the medication actually forced me to, put the brakes on, stop it dead in my tracks, and actually deal with this monster that's been lurking in the closet for years. But would I do it again having known? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. So yeah, like definitely at least like there was that silver lining. But I would
Mm,
say that your silver lining ends up being that you ultimately had to learn how basically how to rebuild your lifestyle around it. Like basically what we're
hmm.
discussing right now.
Yep.
Things that I'm guessing that you weren't really facing before. You maybe do you think that maybe they're just kind of sitting there in the subconscious there?
100%. 100% they
Yeah.
were. Yep.
Yeah.
100% they were there. So, I mean, and I was very lucky to have such an amazing care team. So I was, and I was able to advocate for myself. And I know there's people out
Mhm.
there that can't and they won't and they don't have the resources. So I I consider myself quite lucky to have had that. Yeah. There it's an interesting world we live in now with these all these new things, right?
Mhm.
These things that can almost solve everything
Right. Or at least on the surface it seems to solve
on the
everything.
surface. Yeah,
But yeah, it seems like it took a village for you, and as we've said, I mean, kind of to bring it full circle is that it really does take a village to help guide somebody through these things. It shouldn't just be this one and done, go get some shots and then call it a day. There's so much
that's
more
right.
going into it, and it's a whole like choose your hard whatever. But it's a
Hmm.
lot more difficult than what people think that it's going to be. But yeah, they
It is. It is. And yes, it's not an easy journey. And having the right healthcare professionals on your team is crucial too.
Mm.
You know, I just cringe when I see people ordering them online and not having proper medical support. I mean, I'm sure there are some online ones that do a great job, but then I think, how do you get a mail order prescription for this?
Yeah, that's some scary stuff, and there's so many different types of doses and things. I mean, so much that you can get into when it comes to almost like a master class on it in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Well, all right. It has been such a pleasure to have you on here. Again, this is one of those conversations I've been wanting to have for a long time. The GLP-1s, like they're hot right now. I don't see them going anywhere. So building up more
No,
awareness around it, I just really appreciate you being able to come on here and bring your experience and your knowledge and a lot of wisdom that came from that. Like I feel like it's so powerful. And with that though, it's like I want to make sure that if people are in your area that they're able to come and find you, go to your classes, that kind of thing, or any information that you want to share about how people can kind of get in contact with you. I'm also going to make sure that I share the New York Post article that you did.
yep.
I'll put those in the show notes too.
Yeah, for sure. People can always reach out to me on my Instagram. It's Jen.Nurse. You probably put it in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Instagram account. You can find all my fitness stuff there, all my neural network therapy. That's all linked in my Instagram. So check it out for sure. And it's such a topic that's close to my heart. I'm very passionate about it. So thank you for inviting me to come and speak about it with you. It was my absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And for those of you listening, make sure that you go and share this love by liking, subscribing, commenting under the podcast. Yeah, share it with your friends. This is this is a message that really needs to get out to more and more people. So don't sleep on this. Do your part and share this out there. All right. And with that, thank you so much for joining us on True Grit Podcast, and I will see you next time. Take care. Thank you so much.